Hey, it's Greg with River Bay Lodge. Another thing I'm doing today, we'll have a few minutes, is I wanted to do a small video and talk to people about how to stay warm. It's a question I get all the time. The weather that we have with winter steelhead fishing can vary greatly. January, February, even in the first part of March, it can be very, very cold at times. We usually have snow down here probably 2 or 3 times a year. And snow's not so bad usually when it's snowing. I mean, our temperatures are around 30 degrees. It's that kind of weather before and after that snow occurrence when it's clear blue sky and it gets really cold. You could drop down to the low 20s. Those are days that you remember that you're like, oh my gosh, it's getting cold. My hands personally get cold at about 27 degrees. Above that, I'm fine. But I'm also cheating because I'm rowing. So that keeps my hands moving all the time, and that's helpful for me. It's also combated by the fact that I'm usually pulling an anchor and the anchor's wet. So my hands kind of bounce all over the place on whether or not they're comfortable. I'm a big guy when it comes to layers. So I'll have a base layer that I start with. It's going to look very similar to some type of a long johns. So it could be something small. I like things that are very flexible, okay, and you add some base warmth. So a pair of long johns like that. A t-shirt this one's kind of fuzzy. I don't even know where this one came from. My wife found it for me. Legend Discovery. It's actually almost like a really fine pile, but it's really a nice base layer and very warm. That's what I'm wearing underneath. Next thing is I'm going to have another layer that's flexible but also warm. So a pair of like my steelhead sweatpants or other sweatpants. You could have a pair of pile pants that would go on next. Those could be really nice. I had a client in here last week. He had a pair of down Sims down pants. Those were his next layer on top of the thermals. I thought that was pretty smart, especially it was really cold a couple weeks ago. My upper layer, I want something again that's flexible. What I like about a thing like this is a Columbia Sportswear where they have that kind of that reflective thermal foil inside of this garment. That's the next layer that I would wear. Often I get wet. I'm netting fish, my arm's in the water, things like that. I sacrifice everything for cool photos, keep those fish in the water, the native fish and things like that. So I don't even care. I don't care what happens to me. I know I can deal with it for the day and I'm going to get warm at night. But I want you to have a good experience as much as possible. A lot of times the only thing you can honestly do to get warm is to catch fish. And that's my job. I'll put you on fish so that can happen. But let me tell you, once you hook a steelhead, we get a steelhead and all that excitement, the adrenaline and everything else, your hands aren't cold. There are no problems at all. I will trade any kind of weather known to man to catch a couple fish. And it's awesome that way. I kind of, going through the layers, you can see this is very lightweight. It would be very comfortable wearing that, but I can't go outside in the elements in that way. The next thing I would do is I would have something to warm my core. So I like, again, I get a lot of Columbia Sportswear stuff because they're local here, but they have a really nice vest. That's a down vest. That would be on my next layer for my chest. Knowing that at the end of the day, if I'm peeling layers off as it gets warm, that's probably all I'm going to have on. A couple lightweight layers with the vest, and I'm good to go, even if I have my jacket on over that. If it's really cold, I'm throwing another layer inside. That could look like a pile jacket like this, or if it's really cold and I want to really protect my neck and head, I'm going to have my Mountain Hardwear down jacket on. So those are my layers on the inside. Then I need to cover it all up with my waders. So I've got a pair of waders. These are Sims. Those are the ones that I've been wearing. There's lots of good waders out there, but you want something that's breathable and waterproof. Those are great. With the neoprene feet, I think they're comfortable. I like that. But there's just lots of waders and lots of wader options out there. One thing I didn't talk about was feet. I like socks. And what I have found with super heavy duty wool socks like this is by the time I get the neoprene feet, right, the footies of the waders going, and I'm jamming them in my boots, my circulation isn't all that good because heavy socks make that real tight. Tight's not what you want when it comes to circulation and warmth. So a lightweight wool sock is what I prefer. My feet they're more comfortable. And I'm not a guy that really gets cold feet. That sounds funny, but it's true. A couple times a year. Maybe a couple times a year. I haven't even thought about it this year, last year, maybe once. So once a year I'm going to get cold feet. Still sounds funny. But I'll just put them in, in the waders, in the boots, and my feet are good. That brings us to hands. I want to talk about hands. Lots of people will show up all different kinds of gloves. Bulky gloves like this, not the best option because it's very hard to work your reel. Now, you're not going to have to worry about dealing with knots and things like that. If you break off your gear, I'm handing you another pole that's ready to go. If you want to tie knots, there's no reason to do it because I'm faster at it. It's just what I do. So I'm going to be giving you stuff so you don't really have to worry about that finger dexterity to the extent I do. A pair of gloves like this could be a little more helpful, something that's tight but adds a layer to your hands. When I say it's tight, they're not real bulky, so it makes it easier to work the bail, work the line, and do the casting that we're doing. The ultimate setup, and this is what I utilize on a daily basis, is I'm wearing a pair of nitrile gloves. These are, like surgical gloves or whatnot, but these are designed, they're a little thicker. They're designed for what we do, fishing. And if, in my case, I'm wearing a pair of Sims fingerless gloves. They have some reinforcements on the pad of the hands. That's really nice for me because I'm rowing. But if I was fishing, I'd probably just wear these. And these are wool gloves that are fingerless, and they can add a lot of nice warmth. Now, one thing that's kind of helpful to do is some of these little hot hands hand warmers. You could take these buggers, open them up, get them all going, and those things generate a lot of heat. If you stuff them in the back of your glove like this, or in the front palm, you've got some heat generating there, or you can just put them in your pockets. But that's something that can actually help quite a bit when it comes to your hands. Now, the last thing for regulating heat the best, I believe, is everything to do from the neck up. We used to say in Scouts that if your hands are cold, put a hat on. And there's a lot of truth to that because you lose so much heat through your head. So I'm always wearing a ball cap because it helps me, it just keeps everything away from my face when I have my hood of my wader jacket on. But I like the ball cap too because it can focus if I've got sun and block all that out like a visor. But if I'm cold, obviously most of these hats they're not giving you any warmth. And a cotton one like this is really kind of crappy in the rain. I'll put the wool cap over the top. And that's kind of my next layer. Now, if I'm still kind of cold, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pop on a neck gaiter. These things are fantastic for retaining the warmth around your neck. And I've found a lot of times where I'll throw that on. Then I've got my ball cap and my beanie on. And if I've got this going on and I'm all wrapped up inside my wader jacket, can't even talk about that, but here's the wader jacket. So it's kind of like the waders, but it's the same layer, you're right, a breathable, waterproof layer on top. When I'm all hunkered down, if the weather's really nasty, this is the ultimate way to go. I can outride any kind of bad weather in a setup like this. But once the rain kind of comes away, the hood goes down. If I'm like, I'm still kind of warm, next thing that's going to happen is the beanie will come off. And I may get rid of those layers underneath, so I've just got my waders on with my two lightweight shirts, if you will, and then that's it. If I start to get cold, I'll put this on or off, regulating the heat. Same thing with the beanie, and I'm much more comfortable and flexible and everything else. I like being flexible because I'm always jumping around, doing stuff in the boat, and I'm on the oars and grabbing nets and things like that. I guess finishing out your gear, the last thing I wanted to talk about is if you do have polarized sunglasses, even in overcast weather, they're very, very helpful for seeing fish and seeing what's going on in the water. I like that as an idea. And first thing in the morning, if you don't have a headlamp, I've got 3 or 4 here, so it's not a worry. But I do wear headlamps in the morning. A lot of times we're pushing off in the dark and getting after it. Hopefully that's helpful. I want you to have a good experience when you come here to stay with us. I have like 4 or 5 pairs of waders that people can borrow, even if you just want that extra layer to stay warm. Lots of different wader boots that hopefully would fit someone. Probably from a small to an extra large. If you're a big dude, you're going to need to bring your own gear in that case. I've got different jackets and other types of warm layer jackets. I've got a bunch of hats and gloves and things to help you out if you need that little extra something to stay warm. But I want you to stay warm. We want you to have a good time when you're here. A lot of times comfort makes the whole difference in the experience. Come fishing with us. We'll get you off onto the water. We'll get you into some fish. We'll have a great time.